Welcome back to another edition of the Lispelline Lifestyle. I'm your host, Igor Kheifets, and I've got a cool special treat for you because this past week, Les Brown, yes, the legendary Les Brown came in and gave a talk to my high-level coaching clients, and I just can't hold back on you. I really want you to hear it. So what I've done here is I cut out all the water because we had a lot of people ask a lot of questions there. We kept them there for a few hours, and I just gave you the meat. And I want you to listen to the guy. He's so inspirational. He's probably one of the most inspirational people I've ever met in my life. And I did happen to meet him one time. We hung out for about an hour in a hotel lobby together. He's just, he's pretty dope. Like, honestly, he's pretty amazing. And what I really love about Les is he's like kind of what you see is what you get. The way he is on stage is exactly the same way he is in person. So truly tremendous speaker, tremendous influence on millions and millions of people. And I just had a ton of fun recording this call with him, and it was a true pleasure and an honor. And if you want to learn more about what he's up to these days, you can check out his website at lesbrownmiami.com. He's got an event coming up this weekend in early November, so you can still go and get the tickets, get streaming access if you can't physically attend it, but definitely check it out. So without further ado, I give you Mr. Les Brown. I'm Igor Kheifets, and this is the Lispelline Lifestyle, the podcast for anyone who wants to build a wildly profitable email list working from home. If you'd like to make six figures, travel the world, and help people improve their lives in the process, this podcast is for you. I also invite you to claim a free copy of my best-selling book, The Lispelline Lifestyle: Confessions of an Email Millionaire, at igorsbook.com. Get the free book plus $3,000 bonus package that includes my best capture page templates, email swipe files, and traffic blueprints. Visit www.igorsbook.com for details. And now, it's time to claim your list-building lifestyle.
Hello, this is Les Brown.
Mr. Les Brown, Les, how are you? We've been waiting for you. So happy to have you on the call.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we got a bunch of people here, and I've just given them the task. If you could only ask Les Brown one question, what would it be? So get ready for some really cool questions. There's a lot of stuff about self-doubt in the chat, Les, and basically the question is from Nichon from Shannon. Is this: what are some of the steps or the best tip you can give us to overcome internal self-doubt and feel more confident more of the time?
Well, they're doing it if they're listening to you, because we cannot control the thoughts that come in our mind, but we can control the thoughts that we dwell on. If they would just take the time to listen to speakers like yourself, or the speakers that are going to be on the program, or go on YouTube and find Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome, or watch the video, it's possible. What you're doing is programming your mind and not allowing your mind to be programmed. Scripture says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The reason that most people have doubt and fear and feeling uncertain and hopeless is because they're not intentionally creating a ritual for themselves. When I get up in the morning, I have a ritual that I follow. I make a list of 7 things that I'm grateful for. That's number 1. Number 2, I have an affirmation that I say: Lord, whatever I face today, together you and I can handle it. The third thing, I make a list of 7 things I'm going to get out of the day. Most people wake up and they go on automatic. They're just trying to get through the day. No, if you don't have an agenda for your life, then you are operating on somebody else's agenda. The other thing that's very important, you earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. You must ask yourself the question, and I had to do this, looking at the people in your life, and ask yourself the question, What is this relationship doing to me? Am I growing mentally and emotionally and spiritually and financially? And am I the kind of person that I know it within myself that I can be? When you think about, I was born in Liberty City, abandoned building on the floor, 62nd Street, Northwest 17th Avenue with my twin brother. And in Overtown at Douglas Elementary School, I was labeled educable, mentally retarded, put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade, failed again in the 8th grade at Booker T. Washington High School. And because of my relationship with a teacher named Mr. Leroy Washington, he said, Mr. Brown, people don't live life as it is. They live life as they are. Develop your mind. Train yourself, young man, to read a minimum of one book a month. I do 3 a month now. He said the average American reads 1 book a year. In 5 years, when the average American would have read 5 books and you have read 60 books, that will make you an expert in that area of interest that you have. The other thing is, he said, practice the principle of OQP, only quality people. And they're going to find that in the training that we're going to do November the 11th through the 13th, because your network determines your net worth. And the other thing that he said, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. He's absolutely right. And so when you put yourself in an environment with people that you can learn from, when you intentionally drill and read constantly positive material, listening to motivational messages on a regular basis, you are programming yourself for success.
Awesome. Thank you. Now let's fire the next question. Actually, this one I find interesting because I think you're one of the most perfect people to answer this question. You've been prolific, one of the most prolific people in the self-development space or the speaking space. You've been speaking for how many years now?
52 years. I'm 77 and I'm still going strong. I still got the fire in my belly. I'm still hungry. Yes.
Awesome. So here's a question for you. A question from David, and he asks, how can you get the fire back when you've burnt out?
That's a very good question. And here's something that I strongly believe. Find that which is your calling. You get burned out from a job. I call it the journey of the broke. When you're doing something that's your calling, a calling is something that you love so much that you do it for nothing, but you do it so well that people pay you to do it. I don't get tired of motivating and inspiring people, because this is who I am. You think about people who found the things that they love doing, it's not a job to them. They say, I've never worked. This is something that I love. It's their hobby, and they happen to be so good at it, people pay them for it. So they got burned out from doing something that wasn't them. Find something that's you, that's in your heart. Where your heart is, there your treasure is also. And I guarantee you, you'll never get tired. You can wake me up in the middle of the night and I'll make a paraplegic get up and run. I got it like that.
Awesome. All right. Next question is from Scat. And Scat is asking for some book recommendations. Specifically, what are the top 3 books do you recommend for life, and top 3 books you recommend for business?
Well, my book called You've Got to Be Hungry, and that's good for life and for your business, and they can get that on Amazon. Another book that I would recommend, that I've read it probably about 18 times. It's a small book, and they have a male version and a female version. As a man thinketh, and as a woman thinketh in their heart, so is he. That's a book that I love, because I don't know if you've ever had the experience of reading something and then years later you read the same thing and you get more out of it that new time, because your level of awareness and your life experiences, you can see things that you weren't able to see before. And the other book that I highly recommend is a book by one of the people that I admire, and that's my mentor, Mike Williams. I wrote the foreword for it, and it's called The Road to Your Best Stuff. The Road to Your Best Stuff. It's very important to have somebody in your life that can take you to a place in yourself that you can't go by yourself. And that's going to be the experience that people will have when they come November the 11th through the 13th at the Fort Lauderdale Marriott. Because you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. You can't read the label when you're in the box. And through this experience, what allowed me to stand out as a speaker, the rest of the speakers were going around giving information from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and being governed and influenced by the philosophy of the Dale Carnegie course, which is a very good course. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. I'm going to teach them how to make it against all odds. I'm creating an experience. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once your mind has been expanded beyond your culture, your mental conditioning, and your circumstances, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was. And so information only impacts two areas of the brain. But when you come with an experience that touches the heart, that impacts five areas of the brain. And that allow you to have a larger vision beyond your mental conditioning and your circumstances. And you get out of your history and begin to live in your imagination. That's why scripture says, I'll give you all your eyes can see. We teach you how to discipline your mind and tune out the distractions of life. And this is why most people not achieving their goals, because of distractions, because of ignorance, and because they allow themselves, which I did this for years, to be sidetracked by secondary activity. I was taking on other people's stuff, family members' stuff, and not my own stuff. And a friend of mine told me, he said, listen, don't make somebody a priority who's made you an option.
No, that's a really good point, especially starting out when people kind of don't take you seriously and there's tons of naysayers, they really don't think you're actually doing anything productive. They will always try to take over your time and your agenda. And if you're basically following someone else's agenda, you're not following your own.
Yeah, and the other piece is when you get started on a goal, it's hard. And if you do what is easy, quit, do the same thing that you've been doing, your life will be hard. But if you do the hard stuff, if you go through it, when you get on an airplane, they tell you, listen, fasten your seatbelt because we're going to experience some turbulence before we reach a comfortable altitude. Anything that you're learning starting out is going to be challenging for you because you're just learning it. It's going to be hard, but we can do hard. And people now are looking at their lives and saying, hey, I'm willing to do the hard work. Life, at the end of the day, is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, be it peace of mind, be it your marriage or our children's future, once you start fighting for what you don't want will automatically take over.
Man, those are some good points. um you know there is this element which I didn't think about it this way before, but there's a vacuum, right? And it always gets filled with something. So unless you're consciously filling it with the things you want, life kind of fills it with things by default, doesn't it?
Yes, because where energy goes, where your focus goes, energy flows. So you have to discipline yourself to focus on the things that you want to create in your life because what you think about, you bring about. We can't control the thoughts that come in our minds, but we can control the thoughts that we dwell on. And now in this space where we are, where you're not feeling safe, where you go to public events or we send our children to school. One of my daughters, she's a teacher, and she said, Daddy, I got to go now. And I said, what's wrong? Well, we're about to do a drill in the event a shooter comes in the school. Well, when I was in school, we did fire drills. Now our kids and teachers have to find ways strategically, where do you run and hide if a shooter is in the school? We've never been in this kind of space before. So there's an edginess, the road rage of people fighting over toilet paper in grocery stores, parking lots, just any little thing that that's causing people to go off the deep end. A guy comes online and kills his children. This is a different kind of climate. And so we have to have events that help us to create mental wellness, giving people the tools that allow them to govern their thinking and their emotions and allow them to master themselves in the midst of all of the disruptions. Major disruptions requires major transformation.
Now, let me ask you a slightly different question. I'm really curious to hear the answer myself, actually. Um, if you had to start your career over today, what would you do? Where would you start?
Right now, doing what I'm doing right now. I teach, and this is very important, and hear me clearly. Live your life the way you want to leave your life. I asked an audience a similar question. I said, if you knew you had 6 months to live, what would you do differently? And the majority of the people that's in there, most of them are employed, and many with their own business say, I would quit my job or I would close my business because they're doing something that's not them. When you live your life the way that you want to leave your life, I feel like Leo Tolstoy. He was a Russian author, and he says, as I face inevitable death, what in the meaning and purpose of my life that will not be undone or destroyed when I'm gone? And I believe that the people that I train, the people that I speak to, and the people that they influence and impact, and the people that they influence and transform their lives, that work will not be undone and destroyed when they're gone, because most people die a life that they have never lived. Most people die at age 25 and don't get buried until they're 65, walking, breathing corpses. I have classmates and saying, wait, man, I see you on the internet all the time. And I ask them, well, what are you doing? They say, oh, I live my life. And I ask them, excuse me, are you calling me from the cemetery? You got a pulse? You saying you lived your life? You're sitting home watching Netflix? You've lived your life? You're still breathing. And so you have to be intentional about life. And I decided, because of a defining moment that someone spoke to me, I was labeled educable mentally retarded. And this man, Mr. Leroy Washington, said, young man, they call me DT, the dumb twin. He said, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Do you hear me? And I said, yes, sir. How people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. And I train speakers and I teach them to distract, dispute, and inspire, to distract an audience individually and collectively, the story that they have bought into in their culture, the things they heard, the things that they've experienced, the things that they've seen, the conversations they've heard, and dismantle their current belief system with how you overcame the things that you have experienced and how they can become, as Mother Teresa would say, a pencil in the hand of God and start writing a new chapter in their lives. And having goals beyond your comfort zone is major, because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. People will come out of there with goals and dreams and knowing who they have to become, the radical transformation they must take and make within themselves. And they're going to have a support group, accountability partners. Studies indicate that we increase our chances by 40% when we are in a group of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships that hold us accountable for the things that we identify with and say, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life.
All right. This was a question from Elsa. I forgot to mention her name. So great question. Really, really loved it.
Thank you, Elsa. Yes.
Next one is from Daryl. Daryl's been on fire for the last few weeks. He's been coming on all the coaching calls, and he wants to know, Mister Brown, what do you think was your biggest aha moment in your life?
The biggest aha moment for me is when if people go online and put in Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome. I was frightened. And my mentor, Mike Williams, who wrote the book, The Road to Your Best Stuff, he said, Brownie, I said, yes. He said, don't focus on your fears. I said, what are you talking about, man? I said, I can't hear the voices in my head. He said, listen to me, Brownie. He said, do it for your mother. I said, don't use my mother on me. He said, she would be very proud of you. She would be very proud of you. Your mother adopted you and your brothers and sisters. Single woman raising 7 children. You know how proud she'll be able to share the conversation with her neighbors. Look at my boy. My boy spoke in the Georgia Dome. Keep her in mind as you speak. Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. All my life, I always wanted to make my adopted mother proud. I feel like Abraham Lincoln has said, all that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother, that God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. And when he said, make your mother proud, I said, thank you. And I went out there and they'll see that I was able to do it afraid and command 80,000 people. I didn't know that I can do it. Everybody listening to me, including you, there are things that you can do eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor is entered the heart of mankind what God has in store for you. If you are willing to take a chance on you, if you're willing to work by faith and not by sight, if you're willing to fail your way to success, if you're willing to do as Og Mandino would say, to persist until you succeed, if you do what Willie Jolly said, a setback is a setup for a comeback. If you do what I said, if life knocks you down, try and land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. Oh, behave. I ain't playing with you. Come on now. Come on with some more questions.
Les, you're like the living version of Rocky sometimes. You know, that guy got knocked down and, got up so many times. Like, I really have the same sort of perception of you. So it's, again, so cool to have you
That's
here.
one of my favorite movies. I love that. Yes, yes. I
Yeah,
love,
we
and
actually have a
Forrest
question
Gump.
here. If you're open to sharing, we have a question. What are your top 3 favorite movies?
I love Rocky. I love Forrest Gump, and I love Malcolm X.
Nice, nice. Okay, so that was a question from Eve, right? So Rocky, Forrest Gump, and Malcolm X. Okay, next
Yeah.
question from Hardy or Herdy, and either he or she wants to know. So you shared with us what you do first thing in the morning. You've shared with us your morning ritual, which was actually pretty valuable to and insightful. So thank you for that. What about your the last thing you do before bed?
I review the things that I wanted to achieve, and I check them off. Did I do that? And the things that I did not accomplish, I carry them over to the next day. In addition to that, I then make a list of what I want to get out the next day. I create my agenda for the next morning. And I have a schedule for what I read and listen to. Whatever you listen to when you first wake up, the first 20 minutes will control and influence the spirit of your day. And so I set myself up to win. I have motivational materials that I listen to. I meditate 3 times a day. I pray. I have affirmations that I repeat. And I review the goals of what I'm going to get out of the day that I get to do. And I do my exercise, and then I'm ready to take the day on and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Take no prisoners and eat the wounded.
Love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. Um, a question from James. So James like to know, what speaker has impressed you the most during your entire career?
Dr. Howard Thurman. He was a mentor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Albert Schweitzer, and Mahatma Gandhi. He said the ideal situation for a man or woman to die is have family members praying with them as they cross over. He said, but imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed and standing around your bed, the ghost of the dreams, the ideas, the abilities, the talents, the gifts given to you by life, but you, for whatever reason, you never pursued those dreams. You never developed those talents. You never put yourself at risk. You never challenged your fears. And there they are standing around your bed, looking at you with large, angry eyes, saying, we came to you, and only you could have given us life, and now we must die with you forever. And he would pause and ask, if you died today, what dreams, what ideas, what talents, what gifts will die with you? Dr. Howard Thurman was a bad boy.
Wow, they're just sending chills down my spine. Man. Well, here's a question from Chris. So, Chris says, Mr. Brown, I saw you live in Vegas 10 years ago, and you had many of us going on stage to do push ups with you. Are you still doing push ups, and how does fitness relate to success?
You have to have a game plan for being here. I'm 77 now. I just received last year the Cancer Center's Award of Perseverance. As I speak to you, they diagnosed me 29 years ago with fourth stage prostate cancer. My PSA was 2,400. That stands for prostate specific antigen. 1 to 4 is normal. PSA for me stands for positively staying alive. And so I'm a 29-year fourth stage cancer conqueror. And so fitness, I eat a lot of rabbit foods. I feel like a silly rabbit. Peace of mind, staying away from toxic, negative, energy draining people, and living a life of purpose and meaning. Living the life God has chosen you to live.
All right, so here's another one. This is really interesting because my guess would be no, but do you still have or do you still turn to a mentor in your life?
Absolutely. Yes. I have a mentor, Mike Williams, who wrote the book, The Road to Your Best Stuff. He's been my mentor for 52 years. He saw this Les Brown before I saw him. He was my newsman, and I was in radio. I was LB Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing papa. There were none before me, and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single and love to mingle, certified, bona fide, and indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction and a whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man. I was hungry. Mike Williams said, Brownie. I said, what is it? You can do more than be a fast-talking DJ, young man. I said, I can, Mike? Yes. I've never known my biological father. It's only 2 years between us. 2 years. He's 2 years older. But he's been like a father to me. And my mother said to him, take care of my boy. And he looked out for me all these years. We're still together. It's very important to have someone in your life that will believe in you until your belief kicks in. And he's always believed in me for years before I believed in myself.
Let's shift gears a little bit, and some of this is actually personal for me, as I'm curious on your take on some of the more challenging areas of life that I find them because I was able to achieve financial success very quickly in life. I made my first million before 25. However, I spent a lot of time figuring out different things like parenting, relationships. So would it be okay if I asked you, what would be the number one, or maybe top three, if you're open to it, relationship advice, like romantic relationship, I mean?
Number one, develop a relationship with someone that you're going in the same direction. Someone that you would want to be on an island with, and if there's no one there but the two of you, it's okay. Someone that you don't always agree, but you respect each other and you bring the best out of each other so that you don't end up singing the song, I feel lonely whenever you are around. So you got to take the time to screen them. The
Yeah,
other
really.
thing is that understand that your children, if you have children, they have their own journey. And you don't get to weigh in on telling them how to live their lives. You provide a good example. You want to invest in them and encourage them. But if they choose to go in a different direction, that's their call. And just be fine with that and let them experience life. There's some things that life will have to teach our children that we can't teach them. I have a son who's bipolar schizophrenic. Here I am. I can motivate young men and women around the world. And my own son, he can't hear my voice. He chooses to take his medication when he wants to take it. So I don't get to tell him what he should or should not do. I can encourage it, but at the end of the day, it's his life. And he will have to make choices, and there are choices and there are consequences. Learn to observe and don't allow yourself to be stressed out with his drama or her drama. And the
Interesting.
final thing is determine, answer the question, why am I here? Mark Twain said the two most important days in our lives, the day that we're born and the day we realize why we were born. I was born to speak. I was born and preserved to do what I'm doing right now with you. I'm very much present talking to you. This is the calling on my life. And I encourage everyone. I didn't always know. For 14 years, I was in denial. For 14 years, I couldn't believe. Me? Les Brown? How can I develop the level of credibility to speak for AT&T, Procter& Gamble, McDonald's Corporation, General Electric, IBM, Xerox? I have no corporate experience. I was labeled educable mentally retarded. I failed twice in school. Don't even know my birth parents. I'm a foster kid and then adopted. Are you kidding me? I was called DT, the dumb twin. I didn't know that it wasn't what people thought about me. It was what I thought about myself. And so I didn't live this life here until I had an interruption, until Mike Williams said, Brownie, you more than a fast talking DJ, man. You can do more than entertain people. You can make a mark with your life. You can make a difference. And as a result of that relationship, practicing OQP, only quality people, I was elected to the Ohio legislature. I passed 14 bills my first term, chairman of the Education Committee and Human Resource Committee. And when my adopted mother became ill, I resigned and came back to Miami to take care of her and fulfill a dream of buying her a home. And I've done specials for public television and spoken in over 75 countries around the world. I had no idea I had the ability to do that.
Les, we got Elsa, who previously asked the question. She says, "Please let Mr. Brown know he's flared the fire within me."
Oh,
So
thank you,
inspirational.
Elsa.
I have another question. I have a question about people who do the opposite, who put down, who take out our fire, the naysayers. So questions from Debbie, and not I'm sorry, not from Debbie. Questions from Scat. So it's a second question, really good question. How do you deal with naysayers? How do you not let what they say and do affect you?
What people say about you is none of your spiritual business. Walk away. Don't engage them. Ignore them. Tune them out. Words are containers. Words cast spells. That's why they tell you spell it. Avoid people who say things that you can't grow from. Don't argue with them. Just avoid them. Walk away and do that which you're called to do. I don't care if it's your family members. My twin brother, my mother, she just couldn't see me doing what I'm doing now. And it was okay. I said, Mama, I got to do this. Why, Leslie? You're working at Sears. You got benefits. Well, Sears gone, but I'm still here because I followed my heart. Where your heart is, there your treasures also, not in the naysayers.
That's a good point. Sears gone, and here you are. Man, that's
Yes.
you've always been amazing at putting things into perspective. Like obvious things. It's always incredible to listen to you. So let me ask you something else. So here's a question from Debbie. You said that the two most important days in your life is when you're born and when you find out why you're born. So, hence the question: how do you discover your why?
It is through experimentation. You got to experiment. I used to be a disc jockey. I was a community activist. I was a state legislator. I used to be a photographer. I used to be a door to door salesman. I used to sell suits when I was working at Sears. I've done a variety of things. Life is about experiencing things, and we have different kinds of talents. I can write. I train speakers how to speak. I do one on one coaching, large group coaching. This is the era of what the late Peter Drucker calls the era of the three C's: accelerated change, overwhelming complexity, and tremendous competition. He said something that's very important. He said, we must be willing to unlearn, learn, and relearn. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you're willing to learn, no one can stop you. Robert Schull was right. He said, you either expand or you are expendable. The reason that most people are where they are, as I said earlier, because they get caught up in secondary activity because of the distractions of life and because of ignorance. When you realize, and I believe this with all my heart, that when you leave here, they only put one body in a box, even if it's an accident and several family members die. I believe in the one to the box theory. You going in that box at some point in time. Nobody's figured out how to get out of here alive. Make a conscious choice to make your life count. I remember being in Vegas at Caesar's Palace, and my former wife was Gladys Knight. And I heard him say to her, Gladys, live each day as if it were your last, because one day it will be.
Certainly will. All right, I got one last question for you from Adam. Adam asks, how do you overcome the fear of failure and financial loss?
Here's how you do it, Adam. You make a decision. We make decisions, and our decisions make us. Adam, you will fail your way to success. Adam, Walt Disney filed bankruptcy 7 times and had 2 nervous breakdowns. Adam, his first cartoon was Elmer. Somebody stole it. The company just won the lawsuit 2 years ago to get Elmer back from his grave. He won the lawsuit, but he created Mickey Mouse. Don't look at failure as something that is bad. At the lowest point in my life, I was the victim of a political investigation by then State Attorney General Janet Reno. She investigated using the RICO law that was used to investigate people from the mafia who come down south from New York for the winter months to investigate my program. And ask her, did he do anything wrong? No, but we're just looking to see. Front page, Miami Herald. Les Brown being investigated by State Attorney General Janet Reno. I went down to her office every day in the building, 6th floor, with a sign around my neck. Indict me or set me free. You got something on me, use it to the full extent of the law. Otherwise, get off my back. All I'm doing is trying to help these children in Liberty City. 11 months later, on page 26, Saturday, the lowest edition of the Miami Herald, it said, he spent $125,000. The city gave him $100,000. He spent $25,000 of his own money, and he won't tell us where he got it from. He told us it's none of our damn business. I said, you're absolutely right. They granted me another $100,000. I went before the Miami City Commission. Nobody's ever done this since then and before then. I said, thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to use the skills that I train young people on. People say, practice what you preach. No, preach what you practice. I said, it'd take me 5 years to earn my first million, and I'll be back and sponsor the program myself. No political dollars. I did my first million in 3 years. It was so good, I kept going because I used to be so broke, I walked past the bank and tripped the alarm. I kept going. It was real good. And so, but now I'm back and I'm going to have my program next year. No political dollars. I will sponsor it myself. This has been a long time coming, but Edward Albee in a play called The Zeus Story, he said sometimes you have to go a long distance out of the way to come back a short distance correctly. And so I'm back home and fulfilling my mission to train young people and teach others how to work with them so that we can eliminate the virus that's affecting so many of our kids. HIV, hood-infected virus, AIDS, addiction to incarceration, and death syndrome. I was born to do this work.
Yes, you certainly were. All right. Well, this sums up all the time we have. And I also wanted to give a shout out to everyone whose questions I've asked on this call. What's interesting is that Sket commented, Loveless had not heard him or of him before today. Funny, methodical, and senior living life and influencing greatness. So that's pretty insane. How can you have not heard of Les Brown is beyond me. But there you go. That means, Les, you still have plenty of lives to touch and influence in spite of already impacting millions upon millions of lives. And, just the fact that almost everyone on this call today knew who you were is a testament to that. This was amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. We had a record attendance today. Actually, again, it's a little bit disappointing that you don't turn out to see me, but you did turn out to see Les Brown. So hopefully I'm going to see you more often. Again, thank you. And for my team as well, Alana, Amanda, Olivia, Ibukun, all the people behind the scenes, big shout out. Thank you so much for also making this possible. So this is about it. Have a good one, guys. Have a great week. God bless, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Get access to the previous episodes, transcript of today's show, as well as other exclusive content at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. Also remember to claim your free copy of my best-selling book at www.igorsbook.com. It explains how I made millions with list building starting from scratch. Plus, I'll give you $3,000 worth of free bonuses, including my best landing page templates, email swipe files, and traffic blueprints. Go to www.igorsbook.com now to claim your free package.